Hello everybody and welcome to this new episode of Daedalus Plays with Electronics. Now in one of the previous episodes I looked at one of these little blinky light things. I got one of those kits where you have to solder it yourself, and I must admit it was pretty fun to do. But these things, they don't really do that much apart from getting some experience soldering. But other than that, I mean, you don't really use them for anything. So I decided to have a look at some other kits, and what I found is this little kit. It's a transistor tester. Now I've only paid just under £7 for this, so that's not too bad. You get a nice little kit with a 80 mega microprocessor as well. And you also get this little booklet with it. Well, okay, you don't really get this booklet, you get a link to the PDF file. I've just printed it off in A5 format and made this booklet out of it, just because it makes it a little bit easier when constructing this kit. So I will go ahead and start working on soldering this transistor tester kit. Now all I need is some transistors to test once I'm finished with it. I think there's some in there. But I'll need them on the kit. That's alright, because this transistor tester doesn't just test transistors. You can also use it to test resistors, inductors, capacitors. Basically pretty much any electronic component you can test with this little kit. So let's start by opening this up. Taking these components out. Being careful not to lose any of them. Now the booklet says the first step is the making of the casket. Now I don't think I need a casket just yet for this project, so I can skip that, and then the next step is resistance welding. By that I believe they do mean I need to solder the resistors in first. So this is 33K. Snip the ends off there. And that will go right in there. Then we've got two 10K ones. They can go right in there. So there I have all resistors in the board. And now it is time to solder them in. And let's just go ahead and start doing this. more solder on that one. And that's all them soldered in. It's probably easiest, I think, to do the socket for that microcontroller next. Because that has 28 pins and that's quite a lot. So let's put that in, make sure that's pointing the right way. Doesn't really matter for the socket obviously, but it does help if you keep everything aligned. So on the silk screen, the little notch is on this side, and then on the socket, if I put the notch on that side as well, so the ATmega will have a little notch as well. Right, so let's see if I can get this in. Let's start by soldering just one of these corners in first. And then one of the other corners. And see if that's in. It looks to be in alright. So I can go ahead and solder the other 26 pins of this socket in. And that's the other side done. And that's soldered in nicely. Got some of these capacitors. Let's see, that's 104. Got some 104s, some 103s. And to be honest, I'm not really sure where everything goes, but luckily I've got the manual. And I can sort of go off that picture and just match up the components with their place on the board. So all these that are marked up 104, that should be fairly easy because I've got those marked on the board as well. right in between these two capacitors here should go a transistor. Let's see, that should be a 7550, so make sure I've got the right one. So that goes in there. And don't forget, I'm only just a beginner. I'm just starting to learn to solder with these kits. And while I enjoyed doing the previous one, there wasn't really much of a challenge. But most of these component names and numbers, they just don't mean that much to me. So if the board says that's 9014, then I'll put in the component that's got 9014 written on it. Obviously I know that, like, this is probably a transistor. I'm not entirely sure because there is a DC to DC converter on this board to make sure all the components get just 5 volt that they need. Right, let's solder them in. So do know transistors usually come in a package like this. And this booklet does have the schematics printed in them as well. I've got 5 components on here that look like a transistor. So some of these aren't transistors, they're just in the same package. And that's about all I know about transistors at the moment. Well, as for their appearance, obviously I know sort of what they're doing and what they're used for. And then I've got space for a 8 megahertz crystal right there. Yeah, let's go ahead and put them in. I must say, I'm finding this easier than when I soldered the other kits. I don't know if it's because I've gained the experience with that, because that wasn't that much soldering. So I wouldn't really say I gained a whole lot of experience from that, but or maybe it's just that I have gotten a little bit more confident in soldering these boards now, even though I have only just done the one. This is the crystal, I believe, so let's just put one leg in first. I believe the technique is to hold the crystal down, push it in as you're soldering it, so that is nice and flush. And then you can solder in the other leg. Make sure they're in nice There we go, that is starting to look like a board. So we just got some electrolytic capacitors to go in, LED, then obviously the power sources, so I'll have a battery connector there and the barrel jack there, test ports, the test points right there, and then this row here at the top, which is for the LCD panel. And the shorter lead is the negative one, so that should go in like that. I don't want to heat these up too long, so let's do one leg first. Now you can see that LED is floating a bit above the board, so I'll just push down on it while I reflow that pad, and then the LED is nice and snug on the board. Let's do the other lead. That should be good. Those leads went flying. It's quite hot. That resistor is there to control the brightness or the contrast of the LCD panel. That's what we've got left. These capacitors, and they are both 10 microfarad. Again, make sure they're the right way around. The shorter lead is the negative. And it's also marked on the side of the capacitor, so that goes in like that. And let's solder them in. Take a while to heat up, bit of a larger pad. it's pretty much everything connected except for the battery holder, or the battery thing. So let's put the red in the positive side there, because that's not really going to stick very well. So now, if we look at the manual, after all the welding jobs have been done, please connect to electric power instead of connecting ATmega328 and LCD. So I need to find a power source. I've got some 9-volt batteries around here somewhere, so I can try it with that. And then measure the voltage on pin 7 and pin 22 of the IC connector. Right, so here's my battery. Let's go ahead and test the battery first. Make sure that actually is still that's giving me 8.7 volts, so that should be alright. Now let's hook it up to the board and hoping that'll be alright. That all seems to be fine, and I believe it's pin 7 and 22, so we start there. That's 7, and this will be 22. And then, see nothing yet on the meter, because I need to press the test button, and it's just over 5 volts. It's giving me 5.12, but that seems to be fine. So I will need to solder this pin header to the LCD board. And then let's go ahead and get the final component. Okay, I believe that chip is in, but it's not ideal. It's not really in very straight. I don't really want to push too hard on it. Don't want to break any of the legs off, but that's about the best thing I can do. So with that in, I need to put a LCD module on top there. Right, there we go. That's the soldering all done. Now, the moment of truth. Switch it on. So, put the battery in. After all the installation, connect the power. Push the button and maybe the screen will light without any character display. Don't be panic. Right, adjust the resistance and you will see the character. So here we go, push the button. And it comes on, LED lights up. And the LCD is not displaying anything. So let's see, adjust the resistor if it wants to. Ooh, there we go. we get something. So for the self-test I have connected all the inputs to each other, and I press the button on self-test mode. That should now sort itself out. And then it should ask me for capacitor. I've got a capacitor here that's 100 nanofarads. It should be connected between 1 and 3. So let's try to connect that up. Test end, so I'm guessing not quite 100 nanofarads, it's 86.33, but that is, I believe, to be expected. Switch it on again. It's connected to resistor at 82.5 ohms. That's probably right, I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and take my multimeter and test it in there. And that's giving me 82.1 ohms. Now let's see what it'll do if I connect a LED to the test point. Because that should recognize it as a diode. And it does recognize it as a diode with a forward voltage of 2.78 volts. So there we go, that is a nice little gadget, and it's a fun little project to solder together yourself. And that for just under £7, that's not bad. If you're interested in getting one, look for the original Highland Transistor Tester, and that's HILAND. Obviously it won't be the best of the best of test equipment you can get, but you know, it doesn't really matter all that much. It doesn't really need to be so accurate. Probably not, just as long as you sort of know what you're working with. And I think this is a really nice gadget that does that. It'll show you PNP or NPN transistors, things like that. So just to give you an idea what sort of components you've got in your hands. It's still a fun little project to put together yourself. So that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed. If you did, do like, subscribe and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again next time.